So welcome to the Muddle. It's a rainy Monday. So for those of you that were out gardening on Saturday, I'm sure you'll be pleased that you don't have to go and water your new plants. This week it's going to be wet all week. So just a reminder that we're going to be recording the session so you can share it on the internet afterwards, and any questions or comments into the chat as normal, please, and we'll pick them up at the end. And just so you know, today is Love a Tree Day. It's also National Barbecue Day. I can't see many of those happening. And National Rescue a Horse Day. So please celebrate which any one of those days meets your needs fittingly. Hopefully we'll see some horses around the Children's Hospital later. So I'm going to launch into the highlights from the tactical meeting, which was on Friday. So Julian started by firstly reflecting on all the positive work that we've been doing as a trust on the safety of care of patients on our urgent care pathways, and we've been particularly focusing on ambulance handovers. And in Leeds, our 21-22 data showed that at the LGI, we were the top performing hospital in the whole of the NHS, with an average of 11.3 minutes for ambulance handovers, which is absolutely amazing. So well done to everybody that's been involved in that work. It's also been a really good week for recognition of the NHS in Leeds in general, and there was a Lord Mayor's Award ceremony for the all NHS providers, and we were recognised particularly for our vaccination centre work and our COVID testing services, which have all been led by LTHT, so they were especially acknowledged. And then also Julia and Phil Wood also attended the Lord Mayor's fundraising dinner on Thursday evening last week, that was, and that was attended by our civic and business leadership partners, and over 100k was raised for Leeds Hospitals charity, so it's a really great fundraising opportunity for us. From an IPC perspective, in terms of COVID, our current numbers are continuing to reduce. We're only seeing 55 patients at the moment in the bed base, so we've still just got the one red ward open, which is J11. The rest are all back to being amber beds, which are our specialty override beds. So that's a really much improved position really over the last 6 weeks, which is really fantastic. And then also just to highlight that we've got some good news for our hearing impaired patients and staff, because they've now got the transparent fluid resistant masks available in clinical areas. So if that's something that you need, then you can order those through the usual procurement processes. And then finally, a reminder around our infection prevention core principles will be in place as a trust until the end of June. So that's currently all of the regulations that we have around meeting guidances, cleaning schedules for non-clinical areas, etc. And at the end of June, there'll be a reintroduction of volunteers, a review of PPE requirements, and a step down of the cleaning schedules in non-clinical areas to pre-COVID regimes. So that's all good news. So I'll hand over to you, Colin, for the update against brands.
So thank you, Laura, and I'll have to ask you which day you're going to choose as your favourite one, whether it's horses or barbecues or what was the third? I can't remember, never mind. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Colin Holton, I'm the Clinical Director for the Children's Hospital, and we have been looking currently from the point of view of things within the Children's Hospital about our COVID guidelines. So obviously this is something that we've been working on and have been updating is in the last sort of 2 and a bit years as we've dealt with COVID. It's now got to the point that there was new publication sent out from NHS England about 2.5 weeks ago now, and the Trust is currently working through that. And what we're also now working through that, what will that mean within the Children's Hospital? So we're looking at our SOPs around visiting, around social distancing on our ward. We've still got some beds that are closed, and whether or not we can start to look at putting things in place and mitigations to start opening those beds up, as we've got significant pressures, as we'll hear from Laura shortly, around our beds within the Children's Hospital. There are a premium. Also about elective pathways, so testing whether or not that goes to lateral flow, but also then how we register that lateral flow, as well as the patients and family accessing it, whether or not it's the patient as well as the relative testing for lateral flow. These are all things that we're working through. And then Other important things that raise up are things like face-to-face meetings within teams, how that would look, and how we potentially support you in doing that, along with things such as work experience and visitors, external visitors coming in to see different aspects of our care that we deliver here in the Children's Hospital. So at the moment, we're working through those SOPs. Those will go to central sort of senior exec team, and then hopefully with approval for that, then we'll start to open things back up safely and obviously with mitigating factors in place. But we will be in touch over the coming weeks about that. Many thanks, Laura. So back to you about our significant pressures that we've got within the Children's Hospital at the moment.
Thanks, Colin. So I think most of you are aware that we're in a tricky position, and we have been now for several weeks in terms of our occupancy rates. We remain in a surge state, so we're in our kind of winter surge state still on the 16th of May, and we're trying to staff our ward areas as best we can in terms of those surge beds, but recognising that we are seeing delayed step downs out of crit care and also difficulty getting patients through crit care from a capacity perspective. So just a plea in terms of us thinking about discharge as early as we can and trying to facilitate those processes. We do have an amazing team of discharge coordinators that are available to come into ward areas and help to facilitate discharge. So please do access that team. They're really there to help and more than willing to do so. Also, just a flag from a national perspective, obviously we're one of the 3 centres nationally for liver, and there's the acute liver failure at the moment associated post-adenovirus, a hepatitis type picture, and we've begun having a daily national incident command meeting with the other 2 liver centres to talk about capacity and flow, particularly looking at what liver capacity we have available within all of the liver units, and then also associated with crit care, recognising that a lot of these children are progressing to needing a transplant. So that's sort of a new picture. We hadn't been meeting daily, but as Kings and Birmingham at the moment are under significant pressure, we're a little bit ahead of the curve, if anything, but obviously we just need to be aware that we may be asked for mutual aid if Kings and Birmingham continue to struggle into this week. Just to flag as well, I know that there's been concerns around the amount of VP pumps, IV pumps circulated in ward areas, and we've got an update to say that they'll be coming back into the pool. A lot of them have been taken out for an upgrade and repair, so we should start to see them coming back into the bed base this week. But if you are having any trouble, please do escalate to the matron of the day and the PFC, and we'll try and facilitate getting those to you. And then lastly, again, around our CAMHS patients that are currently in the bed base, we are gaining support from all areas of the trust, and both Phil and Helen Christodoulides last week were really advocating to help us get some of our more seriously unwell children into tier 4 beds, and so that work is ongoing, but that we are getting the message that those beds are as pressured as our beds, so it's trying to work with our partners in the best way. And then, Colin, shall I hand over to you to talk about our PEDS Crit Care initiative?
Yeah, so we've been, as Laura's outlined, as I know that you're all aware of the sort of operational pressures that we've got within beds, both in paediatric critical care, but also throughout the whole of the Children's Hospital, and the impact that's having upon our pathways as well, for especially things like surgery that would use critical care post-operative period of time. And we are looking at initiatives to try and solve that. The main blocking issue at the moment, along with theatre staff, is also nursing staff on the critical care as well as on the ward areas. What we don't want is to have unsafe staffing, but it's trying to make sure that the risk is spread across the whole Children's Hospital. We're looking at an initiative to potentially, because PICU and HDU are combined at the moment, to maximise the efficiency at the moment. We're looking to see whether or not we could staff the 6 bay HDU area, and looking at how that would happen. And we have been asking for enhanced pay for nursing staff for that, And I think that hot off the press, we have approval for that, Laura, and we'll be looking at how we essentially share that throughout the how that's going to work, and we will be sharing that over the coming days, basically, as we try and make that happen. So watch this space, and obviously if any of your team members would be willing to work in these areas or willing to work and us be able to help patient flow, that'd be really grateful. I recognise everyone's been going above and beyond and are really tired and really struggling, but if there is any possibility that they are willing to work, then it's something that we look to look at, and Laura and her team will be in touch with us shortly about that.
Very well, Colin, thank you. So just to be, just so everybody knows that it'll be to open the 6 beds in quick care, but we'll be using the incentive to enable staffing of the step down pathway beds, and then also other ward areas that may be sending staff to support those beds to get staff into those ward areas as well. So it'll be sort of a whole hospital incentive, but really targeted on trying to get as much flow and capacity going, which would be great. So I'll hand over to Liz now for waste reduction.
Morning, everyone. I'm Liz Smith, Business Manager for Waste Reduction and Quality Improvement. So I hope most of you will remember last year we were sort of advertising the launch of internal transport service, sort of a much renewed one with a whole range of vehicles and much more options for the type of jobs that they would take. And we achieved some really good cost savings actually by diverting a lot of our particularly internal transport, you know, cross-site specimens, patients, goods, etc. And we achieved some really good savings by using internal transport because it was cheaper. We recognise that some jobs like taking patients home or to other hospitals across the region and locally were rejected because of a lack of baby seats and child seats. So just before Christmas, we presented the Transport Department with baby seats and child seats to cover the full range of sizes and weights. So that isn't a blocker anymore. The team are still really keen to expand the service to a 7 days a week, 24 hours a day one. And they contacted me in this last week to say they've now got several more drivers working for them, and they've been able to expand their hours of operation to 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Friday. So that's really, really good news. As I said, they want to expand the service further, so please keep requesting every transport job. They won't be able to take all of them, particularly at short notice and distances, you know, outside of Leeds. But if they know what the demand is, they can think about building that into the future. And then just on a cautionary note, I just decided to have a quick look before I came onto this meeting at our taxi spend for the first 6 weeks of this year, you know, April to mid-May compared to last year. And unfortunately, there's over £1,500 increase this year in that 6-week period. Now, I haven't been able to compare it to the internal transport costs because they're a bit more complicated to pull. But I had a flick through some of the jobs and it looked like some of them, quite a few were sort of into hospital lab samples in hours, which might have been super urgent and been very, very good reasons for it. So, you know, this is a very high level look at cost with no real detailed analysis. But I just wanted to remind you all, everybody who uses any form of internal or taxi transport for anything, please first think, is this a job that we can ask internal transport about? And I'll try and paste in the chat just their updated poster on opening hours and contact telephone numbers and everything. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. That's amazing. We've got a comment in the chat there from Joe to say that's brilliant. So well done. Okay, so we're going to go on to sharing success, and I'd just like to highlight our celebration last week for International Nurses Week, and we awarded 2 Head of Nursing Awards. The first award we awarded to Gemma Jones, who's one of our Band 6 nurses who works on L38. That was for her contribution to our RSV surge, where she was seconded into a Band 7 position to open up the surge beds, brought together all of those nurses to deliver care in an area that we don't normally see patients in overnight, and worked so flexibly in multiple ward areas across that time period for 6 months. So some great recognition for Gemma, really well deserved. And our other Head of Nursing Award is our great partner of Children's Nursing Award, and that was awarded to our Children's Hospital security staff, recognising that particularly at the moment, but every day, they're going above and beyond to offer us shoulder-to-shoulder support at the front line, and it's very much appreciated and welcomed. They've got a really difficult job, and so some recognition for our security staff in this quarter's Head of Nursing nomination. So we will be opening up the awards again in 3 months' time, so just welcome any nominations. You don't have to wait until then to nominate, you can nominate at any time. So that was a Nurses Week wrap. And in any other business, just a gentle reminder that those of you who are on the Agenda for Change appraisal season system through the training interface, there's a bit of a change that you may have noticed as you've been going through that appraisal in the mandatory training section. So we used to be able to mitigate mandatory training not completed in that section, and there isn't an option now for mitigation. So just an advisory word that you've got until the end of June to complete your mandatory training, but the options to be able to mitigate that and get your appraisal signed off have now been removed. So it's either sort of it's been done or it's not been done, or you haven't been able to do it because of operational pressures. There is an option for that, but just to remind everybody to get on and try get your mandatory training done as soon as possible. So I think that's it for today. Is it, Colin? Have you got any other business?
No other business as well. Just again, a pre-mandatory training. Yes, I think the three things that we fall down regularly are on our resource are safeguarding and our equality and diversity. So it'd be good if those three things could be picked up and increase our percentage of having passed successfully. Would be great.
Definitely. I can see
Ed,
Ed's
you've
popped
popped
on.
up. He has.
Oh, quite accidentally. Sorry.
I've just been looking at the comments in the chat, and I think we've addressed them all as we've been going through. But just to give a bit of reassurance, Jo Claire Hazel-Greasy is on, very much aware of the high flow issues, and I take your point, Hannah, about the pumps. We'll definitely feed that back. So yeah,
It's probably
thank
worth
you very
mentioning.
much.
Look, Laura, sorry, but just obviously with it being Rescue a Horse Day, just from a health and safety point of view, rescuing horses can be a tricky business, so just stay safe.
Indeed.
Is
Good
that from
advisory words.
personal experience there, Ed?
I didn't like to talk about it. Thanks, Colin.
Okay, we'll leave it there, shall we?
Might be safer to hug a tree. Okay, everybody have a fantastic week. You know where we are if you need any support or any help with anything, and please do reach out. Have a great week.
Bye all.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Colin.
Thanks, you too.